walking around our neighborhood and most likely will be looking for some food. So, keep your children, your dogs, and any person or animal that meant something to you be kept inside. Now, most lions did not hunt people because there were plenty of animals to hunt. However, if they had a taste for human blood, they will be hunting you too.
Oh no.
At the time, my brother was still in diapers, and when we arrived in Africa, he would fall asleep like any little toddler would. But he would wake up in the middle of the night and walk through the house. We had an upstairs and a downstairs. And this particular night, I should say morning, he rose and he slept in his sleep, and he would walk at the same time. And somehow he opened the front door.
Oh no.
And he walked to the water fountain, which was located about a half a football field from the house. And then he sort of proceeded to cry, because I think he realized, you know what, I'm out here by this water fountain and there's nobody out here and it's dark. The Shamba man, he was a security guard for us, because we were 5 miles away from the game reserve, woke up startled, and he had a shotgun between his legs. And you know, if you wake up, you're leaning back in a chair and the gun goes off. And he woke everybody up. And it scared everybody. And Bruce, my brother, he even cried louder, probably wondering why he was still at the water fountain. Well, you see, the reason this is important is because that was the same night that the red flag flew. So here's a 2-year-old out there, a nice little morsel bite for a lion. But my parents woke up, wondered what was going on. I had a little balcony in my bedroom, so I opened the double doors and just pointed. He's out there, Mom, Dad. So they rush out with their PJs on and delivered my little brother, as they thought, from the lion's mouth. I'm sure there are moments in your life too that the circumstances could have gone way wrong. The lion could have found him instead of my parents. But rarely do we think about the times that we have received grace. Rarely do we think about the times where we have been delivered from the lion's mouth. Now, you see, Paul was literally at this time at the lion's mouth. He was in jail, and Nero had decided that he was to be decapitated. And so death was pending. Now remember, Paul was the same guy that prosecuted Christians, that same guy, back in the day, you know. Anybody remember some stuff that they did back in the day? And you don't want to talk about it. You're like, woo. Don't talk about the stuff you did back in the day, especially if you were young and a little wild. Anybody young and wild in here? See, look, see, just somebody go like this. That's good. Some people, there's some of the queens in the back that raise their hand. Anybody young and wild in the see? Look at this. Oh, look at them. The choir. They're like, they know each other. See, see, the reason they're not raising their hand because they know each other's wildness. They talk. You see, Paul was at the lion's mouth. And many of you have been there. Maybe not literally, but in some ways you have. Now, if you all remember, a year ago in Pennsylvania, there was a Rabbi Meyer who someone had come in and shot up folks in the temple. And the rabbi survived. And he survived, and he said, you know, it was awful that those people paid with their life, but the ultimate goal in that neighborhood was to come together as a people of God, and that is what they did. Many of them were able to talk about what is this that is bringing this evil to our temple. So because of the death of those individuals, they are able to grow from it. Paul was showing and modeling what it meant to die with dignity, to die with faith, not because he was perfect, but because he was God's. And so he talks about, I am already being poured out. I'm already being prepared for death. And the time has come for my departure. Now, some of us won't know when our departure is going to happen. And some of us can kind of guess when our departure is going to happen. But if you can say this about yourself, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. If you can say at least that, there is obviously redemption in your soul. Because it's not about being perfect, because Paul certainly wasn't. But he was preparing those whom he's going to leave behind to carry the faith forward. In my defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. And you remember when Jesus felt deserted and fell to his knees, asking God, why? Okay, coming to grips with the reality of his own death by himself. No one holding our hands. Well, you see, Paul is saying here, he said, may it not be held against them. So when we prepare ourselves for this inevitable end of life, we prepare ourselves to relinquish those things that we hold so dear. In Sunday school today, we were talking about Elijah Cummings and his death and what it represented. And the fact is that two people, he had a relationship with another man that happened to be a Republican who was his friend. He was able to reach across and say, in humanity, we are one. We might think differently. We might stand for different things, but we are simply human beings. And we are to walk in faith, regardless of where we stand in this world. And so Paul is saying the same thing. But everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. Now, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of my life. I don't know when it's going to happen. But I can tell that, you see, God has delivered me from the lion's mouth many times. And so instead of thinking, woe is me, I am praying that I count the blessings that I have had in this life. I am praying that the lion's mouth was opened in so many ways. Now, I brought this today because Leora, in her many travels, gave this to me, and it reminded me of the Maasai, and I believe the Maasai was where she got this from. And the Maasai was a tribe of folks in East Africa. And I remember when I was probably around, Jace's age? About Jace's age. And a guy by the name of Rock Hudson. Anybody heard of him? Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Guy by the name of Rock Hudson and a gentleman by the name of Raymond St. Jacques were doing a movie. Now remember, one of the things in our house was we had an open house. And we'd have garden parties. And we would invite all of the Americans that were in Africa at that time to our home. That was kind of my parents' job. And so I met this guy, and they were doing a movie with the Maasai. And the Maasai were very tall, very thin men. They could stand here. This is a short. They could, first of all, the average length of them was 7 feet. And so if they were to jump in place, what does that call, y'all? Football people, vertical jump, what is it? Vertical jump. They would go through the ceiling here.
It would.
Yes, he would. Because they can jump really high. And they are wonderful, wonderful warriors. And they believe in the sense of being good to one another. When I was there, I watched these people jump that high. And I thought, I wonder if I could jump that high. As Christians, as Paul is trying to help us, is to jump high. And yes, there's going to be people that will want to put you in the lion's mouth. And there might even be somebody that tries to take your life. But until that time, ladies and gentlemen, and people of God, we have work to do today. Because Jesus lived, Paul lived, and others have lived to model who we are in Christ. When we talk about this book, this holy, it says here on the outside, Holy Bible. When we look at the Holy Bible and we think about what it is that we are to do as Christian individuals, it tells you verbatim. It tells you, and I love this, when you're ready, when you're at the end of your life, and the time has come for my departure, I just want to be able to say, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Imperfect as it is. Count the times that you have been at the lion's mouth and it didn't close. Can anybody count? Has anybody had that experience where you've almost been there, but you didn't go over? Okay? One of the reasons that happened is to wake you up. Wake up. Presbyterians, Christians, Jews, Muslims, wake up. We are to walk like people of God, not to be lazy. We are to walk in the ways of Jesus. And as we ask the little ones, what would Jesus do in this situation? Would Jesus have walked away? Would Jesus have been snidely or gossiping? Would Jesus put my head in the lion's mouth? Jesus was here to say, as Christians, we gotta jump in that water. Even if the person knows how to swim. We gotta jump in, y'all. We've gotta jump in. Nero took his life, but didn't take his power. Pontius Pilate took Jesus' life, but didn't take the Holy Spirit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you're sitting here today. Because the power of the Holy Spirit has taken you and delivered you out of the lion's mouth for a reason. For a reason. I want you to put your hand up. Right here. I am here for a reason. I can't hear you.
I am here for a reason.
God is my Savior.
God is my Savior.
And I will walk like Jesus.
And I will walk like Jesus.
Amen.
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 And amen.
Amen.